The KXAN News Podcast is sponsored by Shelf Genie. In-depth, investigative. This is KXAN News.
Hey, thanks so much for joining us. I'm Daniel Marin.
And I'm Avery Travis. Austin police just released a lot of new information about their investigation into a series of street takeovers that happened over the weekend.
Just minutes ago, Police Chief Joseph Chacon said his department has made 6 arrests. Now, among them, 2 people for evading arrest and 4 more that resulted in 8 felony charges, with 4 firearms recovered, along with marijuana and meth. Chacon also said police had received a tip Friday night about the possibility of street takeovers, but that it was too vague to take action on.
I'm not going to say that we knew exactly what the nature of this was, heading, with the vague information that we had in the tip that came in, but certainly that is going to be where we start moving forward.
And we also learned about another arrest in the takeovers made by the Department of Public Safety.
KXAN's Grace Reeder breaks down what we know about a man arrested at the second of these takeovers.
A man DPS troopers arrested this weekend told police he only came to town for the coordinated street takeovers. An affidavit shows the man is from Dallas. A DPS trooper first caught up with him here, the I-35 frontage road at East Anderson Lane, where drivers had taken over the street doing donuts and burnouts. When the trooper turned his lights and sirens on, 2 cars took off. DPS reports at some points they drove without lights on 150 miles an hour, even though they weren't being chased. A DPS aircraft followed one of the cars, which ended up at a 7-Eleven around 3 miles away. That's where troopers arrested 22-year-old Jerry Antonio Gore. Documents show he's facing charges for evading arrest and reckless driving, among other gun-related charges. Gore also had a stolen short-barreled rifle in his car, DPS said. The gun had been reported stolen out of Dallas. Grace Reeder, KXAN News.
Grace, thank you. Austin police say there were 12 911 call takers working at 9 o'clock on Saturday night when the first takeover at South Lamar and Barton Springs Road happened. Between 9 and 9:30, there were more than 260 calls to 911. That spike led to some 911 callers having to wait up to 27 minutes to get someone on the other end of the phone.
Overseas now, President Biden is marking a year of war in Ukraine with a speech in Poland to rally support from allies and Americans for the war-torn country.
At the same time, Russia's president says it is suspending its last remaining nuclear pact with the U.S. As Drew Petrimo reports, there appears to be tough days ahead in a war with no end in sight.
Hello, Poland.
Speaking from the Polish capital, President Biden reflecting on a year of war in Europe.
1 year after the bombs began to fall, Russian tanks rolled into Ukraine. Ukraine is still independent and free.
Among the crowd of tens of thousands gathered at the Warsaw Royal Castle, some of the 1.5 million Ukrainian war refugees currently living in Poland.
No one can turn away their eyes from the atrocities Russia is committing against the Ukrainian people. It's abhorrent. It's abhorrent.
President Biden praising the bravery of the Ukrainian people and the resolve of the coalition of countries supporting Ukraine's defense.
When Russia invaded, it wasn't just Ukraine being tested. The whole world faced a test for the ages.
President Biden taking direct aim at Russia's president.
President Putin's craven lust for land and power will fail. Ukraine will never be a victory for Russia.
But earlier today, in a fiery speech from Moscow, Vladimir Putin vowing Russia will win the war, while blaming Ukraine's leaders and the West for his invasion. Putin also announcing Russia will pause its participation in the New START treaty with the U.S. that caps the number of nuclear weapons the 2 countries can deploy.
Our support for Ukraine will not waver.
Despite the president's promise, Americans are somewhat skeptical. Recent polls show the public is split on whether the U.S. should continue supplying weapons and funding to Ukraine. Still, 1 year after the war's start, Ukraine's will to fight for democracy has not waned. Drew Petrimo, NBC News, Washington.
First warning weather with Chief Meteorologist David Yeomans.
Well, temperatures today likely end up as the warmest day so far this year. Still waiting on official highs in Austin, but we'll be 84, 85. Temperatures still very warm out there this evening. 83 live on Lake Marble Falls. Sunshine, all you see from the Highland Furniture River City Grill camera. Temperatures in the hill country have been even warmer than the rest of us in most areas. 84 degrees in Llano, 87 out in Mason. The dry air always really causes those temperatures to soar. 81 out at the airport and in Round Rock, east of I-35. Temperatures close to 80 degrees. It's 79 right now in Giddings. Coming up in your first warning forecast, the hottest day of the week is still to come. How high temperatures go tomorrow, a fire weather warning, where we're concerned with that. And also new today, we're tracking an uncertain cold front a bit later this week.
All right, David, thank you very much. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton and his attorney appeared before a House Appropriations Subcommittee today. Paxton answered questions about his potential $3.3 million settlement with 4 whistleblowers who accused him of wrongdoing. Now, the settlement, which would use taxpayer money, must be approved by lawmakers.
If, in fact, that this body does not vote for it, General Paxton, would you be willing to pay for it out of your campaign account?
Yeah, I don't want to speak for the Attorney General. I'll just say that there is no whistleblower case where any individual has paid anything because the individual is not liable under the terms of the statute.
And we also learned today the state has spent about $600,000 defending Paxton in this case so far. Paxton's team said it could not answer what would happen if lawmakers do not approve the settlement amount.
Well, there's just a few weeks left for you to weigh in on TxDOT's I-35 expansion project. As we've told you, this is expected to displace about 100 businesses and residences. Our multicultural reporter Jayla Washington reports this will primarily impact Black and brown low-income Austinites. Tonight, she's taking an in-depth look at what options there are and critical rights that you should be aware of.
Wow. In the heart of downtown Austin at La Escuelita de Alma, kids laugh and play ignorant to the fast-moving world around them. Wow. Families have been sending their kids to this daycare for generations.
We serve a little bit under 200 families. They're all, working families coming from all over the city, and they really rely on our center because it's so centrally located, because we do offer a semi-affordable rate.
That's why Jaime Cano is worried about TxDOT's plan. La Escuelita de Alma is one of more than 100 properties that could have to go to make room for the expansion.
It has proven to be extremely difficult to find all of the things that we need to continue to operate a center of this size.
Even TxDOT admits, thanks to housing and real estate prices, places like this could find it hard to afford a new location nearby.
There's also a likely consideration that you'll have to move kind of outskirts of Austin, Pflugerville, the Cedar Parks of the world type of thing.
So getting pushed out of their neighborhood.
Exactly, yeah.
TxDOT says it is working to help with the relocation process, which will include payouts.
TxDOT will tell you that their initial offer is fair. I'm here to tell you that oftentimes it is not.
Luke Ellis is an eminent domain lawyer. He says he is already representing some people who could be displaced. He's working to make sure people and businesses get paid what they deserve.
So in this case, is there even a fight back process?
It's extremely difficult to challenge TxDOT's ability to expand a road and take your property. And what we try to focus our clients on is their constitutional right to just compensation, their way to fight back, their way to be sure that they're treated fairly.
But what's fair goes beyond money.
This is going to be the second time that we're having to move.
Jayla Washington, KXAN News.
Jayla, thank you so much. The negotiation process, figuring out what you're paid for your property, could go to court, and it could take years to resolve. If you want a closer look at TxDOT's plan and how it could impact you or your property, we've got that linked for you right now at KXAN.com.
Ohio Governor Mike DeWine and the head of the Environmental Protection Agency, Michael Reagan, drank tap water today in East Palestine, Ohio, the site of this month's train derailment. They were trying to show their confidence in water testing and alleviate concerns about lasting effects from the chemicals that were spilled in the crash. They also visited a new clinic where people can go to get answers about possible health effects. Some residents have reported symptoms ranging from rashes to headaches.
The U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission is fining the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and its investment arm $5 million for using shell companies to obscure the size of the portfolio under church control. It had grown to about $32 billion by 2018. The SEC says the church went to great lengths to avoid disclosing the church's investments, including the creation of 13 shell companies. The church says all of its holdings had been reported through the separate companies.
A bill to ban voting sites on college campuses in Texas. We'll talk to the state representative from Hays County who filed it. Why she says K-12 schools should be removed too.
Big changes coming to one of Austin's busiest parks. The improvements being made to Barton Springs Road.
And shorter hours, happier employees, and revenue gains. The results of what's being called the world's biggest trial of a 4-day work week. Attorneys for the family of a man shot and killed by Austin police are asking for criminal charges to be filed against the officers who opened fire. Officers shot and killed 30-year-old Anthony Franklin on January 15th on West 6th and Colorado streets. Police linked him to an earlier shooting. Body camera video shows Franklin on the ground after being shot, and that's why these attorneys say they're demanding action.
It was an unlawful killing. Wasn't justified. No matter how you slice it, dice it, Mr. Franklin was on the ground, not posing a threat to anyone at the time he was shot and killed.
Now, the officers involved in the shooting are on paid leave, which is standard for these types of cases.
It'll soon be a little easier for walkers and cyclists to get around Zilker Park. That says the city of Austin kicks off some improvements along Barton Springs Road. Austin Public Works kick-started this project that'll improve walking paths, but also bike lanes and bus stops near the park, the Botanical Garden, and near the Austin Nature and Science Center. Funding comes through city council allocations and also some bond dollars. All 3 phases of this project are expected to wrap up in the next year to year and a half. For more on the improvements and roadway access during this construction, you can head on over to KXAN.com and click on this story.
Well, high temperatures just in officially from the National Weather Service, and it wasn't quite 85 degrees. It was 84 yet again. This means it was on par with the warmest temperatures of the year so far. We've actually hit 84 in the city 3 times so far in 2023. Out at the airport, the second warmest day of the year there with a high of 82. Your first warning forecast with a fire concern tomorrow. Next.
This KXAN News podcast is brought to you by Shelf Genie. I'm Rosie Newberry from KXAN Studio 512. Considering replacing your kitchen cabinets? Struggling to find or reach things? Go to shelfgenie.com/Austin. Shelf Genie designs custom pull-out shelves for your existing cabinets, adding convenience and value to the most used room in your home. Shelf Genie custom pull-out shelves, everything in reach.
Voting sites on college campuses could be banned under a proposed Texas bill. Some call it an act of voter suppression.
Others believe it's a matter of school safety. KXAN's Sarah El-Sheikh spoke with the state representative from Hays County behind the measure.
The polling site was actually right over here in this building and this room, and the line stretched all the way throughout here, all the way down the line outside.
Jacob Graybill is one of thousands of Texas State University students that vote at the campus's polling location, a resource he says benefits so many.
It's the faculty, the staff, like every single level of Texas State and San Marcos, our neighbors come to vote at this location for convenience.
But there's a push to take it away. Texas House Bill 2390 is proposing to ban campus polling sites across the state. Republican State Representative Carrie Isaac brought the idea forward and says it's a matter of school safety.
Here in Texas, we have one of the longest early voting periods of any state in the nation, 2 weeks of early voting. I don't believe it's wise that we invite people onto our campuses that would not otherwise be there.
Some worry it would lead to some people just skipping voting.
There would be so many people who want to vote, who care about these issues, that just can't.
Isaac says there are other options like voting by mail or that some universities bus students to polling locations.
I have the utmost confidence in our young adults here in Texas to vote, even if the location is not right there on their campus.
On the other side of the aisle, 2 Democratic state senators filed a bill that would require at least 1 main campus polling location for colleges with at least 5,000 students. Sarah El-Sheikh, KXAN News.
And State Rep Isaac says she's drafting up another bill similar to this one that would remove polling places from K-12 public and charter schools.
First warning weather with Chief Meteorologist David Yeomans.
Spring-like weather out there again this evening. Partly cloudy over Austin and 81 degrees right now at Camp Mabry. It's 80 degrees in Burnett and Georgetown, 86 in Mason. Keep in mind when you look at this map, these are 15 or 20 degrees warmer than we would expect to be this time of the year. The pollen count with our hourly updates from the new equipment here on the roof showing a little bump in the mold this evening to medium. Ash and cedar trending flat, still low. Oak, the only guy on page 2, trending slightly higher, but luckily still in low concentrations. That won't last for the next couple weeks. The clouds and radar showing a pretty calm picture across the state, but you can tell there's some action out to the west. One little small storm system being absorbed into a much larger one. This one is going to make national headlines for the next several days. Blizzard warnings in effect west of Minneapolis over toward North Dakota. This is expected to be a historic storm, even by Northern Plains standards. Back here at home, it's just the wind and the warmth, which are the main stories, as both of those storms largely miss us. Now, later this evening, as moisture increases ahead of the smaller storm number 1, clouds start to fill in as early as about 10 p.m. Will be mostly cloudy overnight, but not a lot of rain in the forecast between about 5 and 9 a.m. tomorrow, though, including your morning drive. Watch the map with me. You'll see a couple little sprinkles breezing through. Notice, though, most of the rain is just well to our north, and by 8 or 9 a.m., the rain chance ends, and gusty winds and sunshine dominate the rest of the day. Speaking of the wind, it's already breezy out there with wind gusts approaching 30 miles an hour in Georgetown and Burnett. Watch how the winds do the opposite of what we typically see. They actually get stronger after sundown tonight. After 10 p.m., look at these little purple strips simulated by the model. Overnight tonight, it is possible in some locally windy areas, hard to tell you exactly where, 40, 45 mile an hour wind gusts from the south-southeast blowing northward. As the storm system tightens up the pressure gradient locally, it will be very windy all the way through tomorrow morning. Tomorrow afternoon, though, notice the arrow is shifting. This is a warm, dry west wind behind the little boundary from that storm system. This is actually going to pose a fire danger, a red flag warning for the low humidity, strong winds, and serious rainfall deficit in the highlighted counties south and west of Austin. We're also watching the temperature map because we have some new information on a little brief cool down we may see several days away. This is incredible. 84 in Dallas, 2 degrees in Fargo, North Dakota. New information, though, has me a little more convinced this cold front could actually briefly intrude right here into central Texas on Friday. Just to peel back the curtain a little bit, though, this is a really uncertain forecast. The European model keeps the front north and brings Austin to 80 again on Friday, but the GFS ensemble model brings highs down to the 50s. So you can see models disagree vastly. I will tell you that we're thinking 60s right now for your highs just for one day. Overnight lows tonight, those are in the 60s. 10% chance of rain with gusty winds from the south-southeast. Tomorrow, look at this, the warmest day of the year so far. 89 west-southwest winds, again, quite strong. If you're spending any time outdoors with this spring-like sunshine, remember to protect yourself from the sun. The UV index today and tomorrow is up at 7, which is in the high category. After that, we have that little cold front intrusion just briefly with some clouds and maybe a light rain shower Friday. After one day of cooler than normal weather, though, we are back at the 80s this weekend, and very warm weather continues for the season next week.
Work less, get more. Just ahead, the results of Britain's big experiment with a 4-day work week. The benefits for employees and their companies. A trial of a 4-day work week in Britain has found that most employees are less stressed, burned out, and have a better work-life balance.
Billed as the world's largest test run, most of the 61 companies that participated for 6 months will actually keep the shorter hours. This involved 2,900 employees in industries spanning marketing to finance to nonprofits. 73% reported increased satisfaction with their lives. 60% said it was easier to balance work and responsibilities at home. And 48% said they were more satisfied with their job than before the trial. Fatigue was down, people were sleeping more, and mental health improved.
And for the companies that rolled out the shorter work hours, there was a drop in the likelihood of employees quitting, down 57% compared with the same period a year earlier, as well as those calling out sick, down 65% from a year earlier. And revenue was not impacted. Revenue actually grew 1.4% over the course of the trial for 23 companies that provided adequate data. Another 24 companies saw revenue climb more than 34% from the same 6-month period a year earlier. 92% of the companies reported they would continue with the 4-day work week, with 30% saying that it's a permanent change.
And these findings from the UK largely mirror the outcomes of earlier trials in Ireland and even here in the U.S. So more evidence, the more you may be seeing these 4-day schedules being offered.
All right, we have no reruns tonight on KXAN. We have Night Court, all new at 7 o'clock, followed by American Auto at 7:30. And then a 2-hour episode of La Brea starts at 8 o'clock before we're back with KXAN News at 10.
Thanks for listening to KXAN News Nightly. You can also listen to KXAN News Today every morning for more in-depth coverage of what matters most to you.